Hi, welcome to the Stroudwater Canal video, part 2. Now I'm going to hand over to Simon for a recap.
Hello there folks, it's windy today, so I'm hoping that our muffs, no funny comments, I'm hoping that our muffs are getting rid of some of the wind. Oh dear. Okay, so as Karen said, we are back on the Stroudwater Canal, originally known as the Stroudwater Navigation, and it runs from all the way over there at Framelode, where it leaves the River Severn, crosses the Gloucester Sharpness Canal at Saul Junction, makes its way to here and carries on that way where it met up with what was the Thames Severn Canal. Both canals are under restoration. We're here today to talk a little bit about the restoration, but also about some of the history as well, because there's some nice things to still see. There are a handful of boats on this canal, and most of those are working boats being used for the restoration. It is unfortunate, but it'll happen one day, that there are no privately owned boats, holiday boats, back and forth up and down the canal, enjoying this beautiful, beautiful scenery. It is nice here, isn't it?
It is.
We stood here in the shade because we tried round there, but it was a bit bakey and a bit bright, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I've got hold of my hat because that nearly went again.
I reckon you're going to take off with that later on.
I've got that.
If you do, I just need to get that on camera.
Well, I'm not going in the canal to get it.
When we were here last, these were only a few days old, maybe a week or two. Big old bruisers now, 6 of them I think. And we're feeding them Rice Krispies, not bread. Bread isn't good for them. It's not good for us for that matter. Over here is Nutshell Bridge, and this is Nutshell House, or Nutshell Bridge House. Built in 1778, 1779, at the time the canal was built. And they were built together by the Stroudwater Canal Company. Nutshell House, quite a remarkable hexagonal structure, and it's attached to the bridge. Oh look, and here's the swans that we fed some Rice Krispies to earlier on. I think they followed us down in hope of some more. Sorry swans, we've run out, you've had the lot. And in the distance, a rather stunning, beautiful local church. I'll get down on my knees here. Oh. So this is, just look at these, okay? All the way down, all the way up and through the stone. And these are caused by when they towed a boat with a horse. This is the rope, or rather this is the groove caused by the rope. And you think, wow, just what, Hessian rope, how can it do that? Well, if you imagine the rope making a lot of contact with the ground and often wet, picking up sand and grit, and then as they went around the corner here and the rope goes over a period of time, it makes these grooves. And of course, once you've got a little groove, the rope will kind of follow a track. So you end up with all of these slices in the stone. Sometimes, and some of the places we've been, they have cast iron covers over the corners of bridges, and they're grooved just as deep. Phenomenal. Here's one of those working boats I mentioned earlier. It's one of the few craft actually that resembles a narrowboat on the canal. Whoa, and a swan. Wow, how about that? So look, this boat's called Wookie Hole. Anybody know where Wookie Hole is? I do. Why don't you tell us in the comments? Ocean Bridge. The origins of the ocean are unclear. According to the sign here, it may have been the remnants of an old fish pond belonging to the old manor house, Stonehouse Court. Today, it merely provides a habitat for water birds, insects and amphibians. Stonehouse Court, a manor house, was recorded here as Stanhus in the Domesday Book, 1086. The current building of Stonehouse Court dates back from 1601, and though it suffered from fire in 1908, it was restored afterwards. The 1881 census records the head of the household as Frederick Barclay Chapman, late Major of the 14th Hussars. He and his family had 8 servants. I've got none.
Dudbridge Crane is the only surviving wharf crane between the Stroudwater Canal and the Thames Severn Canal, and it is still in its original position. Cranes like this were used for unloading and loading the often heavy items from the laden boats passing by. It is believed that the crane was supplied in 1854, but there is no absolute evidence to substantiate this. The canal crane is behind the fence on the towpath side of the canal, just above the new footbridge at Hilly Orchard, and it is now a Grade 2 listed item. As it was behind a fence, I was only able to get images by drone. Sorry about that. Ebley Mill, nestled on the Stroudwater Canal in the heart of Gloucestershire. There have been mills here dating back over 5 centuries. From the 1500s, there was a fulling mill and a grist mill recorded here at Ebley. In 1800, the mill on the north side of Stroudwater Canal was acquired by Stephen Clissold. He built a large mill on the south side of the canal between 1818 and 1820. The mill was leased by John Figgins Marling in the early 1820s and later bought by Thomas and Samuel Stevens Marling in 1840. The adjoining Bodley block was built in 1861. This replaced an earlier block destroyed by fire in 1859. In the 1870s, the mill employed in the region of 800 people, mostly local. Ebley Mill played a vital role in the region's industrial revolution. Its strategic location by the canal allowed for easy transportation of goods, which became the lifeblood of the thriving textile industry in the area. In the late 20th century, the decline of the textile industry in the UK took its toll on Ebley Mill as well. The mill ceased textile production in the 1980s and remained vacant for several years. However, efforts were made to preserve its historic significance, and in 2005 the mill was redeveloped and repurposed into a mixed-use complex, incorporating residential, commercial and leisure spaces. Since the 1980s, this has been the location of the Stroud District Council offices. Today, on the north side of Canal, there are modern buildings divided into canal-side apartments. The buildings have been built very sympathetically with the surviving mill buildings on the south side of the canal. There are also a number of shops and other commercial premises also similarly built. It's a very nice place to go and visit. Highly recommend that you do. You could be excused for thinking or believing that these are lock gates. They're not, they're floodgates. And they were installed here in 2012 because when the River Frome is in flood, this is impacted, and the floods around here across the roads, etc. Really, some cows mooing over there. We'll just ignore them. They're probably laying eggs or something. So when these are shut, the water, the flood water, is effectively held back and diverted back into the River Frome, and thereby alleviating the damages that were caused over there. Between Ebley Mill and Wallbridge, there are 2 locks, Dudridge Lock and Turbine Lock. Since our last visit here, some canal restoration boats have arrived. There's a bit going on, but it's Sunday, so we can't ask anyone what is actually being done here. Never mind that, just come and have a look at Turbine Lock. This is Foundry Lot. There used to be a foundry just over here. It looks a bit leaky. At first glance, it appears that the sluice gates have been left open a little bit. There's a few teeth left here, but not. So, hopefully I'm not going to entertain you by falling in by doing that. This gate, well, the entire lock, and Dudbridge Lock, which is just down there, were both restored in 2012. They see very, very little boat traffic, a handful of boats a year through here. And yet, despite that, the leak is quite significant. Now, this is our second time here to try and record this video. We were here about a month ago. Very similar weather, lovely day, not quite as breezy. We record all of our sound to our DJI mics, which also transmits to the camera. The copy offer here is much better quality than the camera one, so we use that. When we got home, I downloaded all of the camera video, the phone video that we had off the Osmo, the drone, the lot. Downloaded the 2 sets of audio, my mic, Karen's mic, labelled everything, and then deleted all the audio. Complete elderly moment. Karen's wagging her finger at me from behind the camera. Absolutely deserved. Complete utter plonker. So you might notice a little bit of lack of continuity. For example, Samson and the other working boats, they weren't there before. So it's not magic. We didn't make them disappear. I mucked up. Real Jane and John book 1 stuff. Never going to do that again, ever. This is Capel's Mill, and it is almost at the eastern end of the thus far restored Stroudwater Canal. It stands, I believe, as the most iconic structure on the canal altogether. The railway viaduct, built in 1868 for Isambard Kingdom Brunel's Great Western Railway, replaced an earlier timber structure that was built in 1840. The timber viaducts were built in the 1840s to 1850 and to allow for the rapid expansion of the railway network, which was seeing off the canal network back then. The viaduct crosses the canal here, and a little further down it also crosses the Thames Severn Canal. As you can see here, the timber one, which predated this, and this one both spanned across the mill. The mill buildings still reside within the arches. It's quite a sight to come and see. It's a very, very popular tourist spot, whether you're into canals or not. Since the decline of the canals network, the Stroudwater Canal, like many others, fell into disuse, and in many areas didn't have any water in and was utterly unnavigable. Before its resurrection, the area slightly to the east of the basin here was used as a landfill site. When they came to restore the canal, the original path went underneath the arch that is now spanning the busy main road, Dr. Newton's Way. So they had to repath the canal, redirect it through a different archway. They also had the significant problem of the landfill site, and an ingenious method of concrete and metal piles and a 400mm or a foot and a bit thick concrete reinforced trough was used to position the canal through the basin. The trough sat on top of supporting piles, and the eastward side of the landfill was held in bay by massive reinforced concrete piles and steel support cables. It's quite a structure. During construction and before they filled it up with water, and hundreds of people came down and walked through the basin. In times of high water levels, the canal is designed to overflow into the River Frome. Stroud Valley's project and its volunteers planted in excess of 500 trees around the mill. Particular species have been chosen which provide fruit for the birds. There's wild pear, wild service tree, cherry, hawthorn, and other species include willow, apple, sweet chestnut and hazel. The area has also been seeded with a wildflower mix which attracts a variety of insects. These include wild carrot, common knapweed, bird's foot trefoil and lady's bedstraw. The construction of the new diverted canal through the basin was an extreme feat of engineering and ingenuity. When you see to the right, now covered over by beautiful grasses and trees and flowers, the landfill site through which the trough came, it's staggering to actually comprehend. There were a total of 1,570 cubic yards of concrete, 116 tons of steel reinforcement for the canal trough, 330 cubic yards and 67 tons of steel reinforcement for the piled wall, 53 cables to hold up the piled wall, and these are anchored into the bedrock behind 163 sheet piles. There are then almost 20,000 cubic yards of excavated existing ground material, 7,100 bricks to repair the aqueduct itself and the viaduct. The amount of water used to fill the channel was enough to fill 2 Olympic swimming pools. The canal and trough itself is just under 5 feet deep. So these immense concrete piles go deep into the ground, and it almost looks like that the landfill is squeezing and oozing out through them and between them. There's pieces of plastic, the stone, brick, bits of glass, all sorts of things that were chucked into the landfill site are now here still to see, and will be for decades or even maybe hundreds of years to come. And now, in amongst the debris and the concrete pilings, there's bird boxes, and nature's taking over and growing out of every little piece. Left to its own devices, nature's a very, very powerful force and will eventually cover and take it back. We only damage it for a little while. Nature will do its bit and retrieve it once and for all. From up here, you have a really good vantage point to see all, not only the mill, but where the basin winds its way around the landfill site. When they wanted to start restoring the canal, the new main road, which you can hear just over here, was too close, and the canal went underneath an aqueduct arch just over here. So they changed it. They built this basin, but they had to hold back the squillion tons worth of landfill that were down here. And they put in really massive steel piles underneath to support the basin, and then masses and masses of concrete. And then this walling here is literally big, thick concrete piles, fenced in with steel. It's a hell of a thing to come and see, and it holds it all back. Up here, there's some really... Oh, where have we heard that before? We watch another channel that says train. Hey, so just up here, we've got some nice picnic tables. There's a cycle path that goes around. There's usually joggers and walkers and all sorts, but it's lovely up here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Highly recommend you come and visit.
Yeah, and if you like both of our videos, press the like button.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And when you do so, don't forget to hit the little notification bell, and you'll get told every time we make a video.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed this. This was part 2 of Stroudwater.
Yes, it was.
3 or 4 videos back for part 1. Hope you enjoy them both. Cheerio.